Hello friends, welcome again to this series of tutorials on AWS, and in the last session we basically covered details about Elastic IP, wherein we created an Elastic IP, we assigned it to our Amazon account, and then we tied that Elastic IP to one of our instances, and that was our practical session on that. So in this session we basically will be covering Elastic Load Balancer, that is ELB. So the people who are working with web applications, they might be pretty familiar with this concept, what is load balancing. So we will just brief you upon that before starting the practical session. So let's do that. So let's say this is your website, which is hosted on a particular server. Okay, so this is the website which is hosted on this server. So whenever we make a request to this website, the request goes to the server and in turn you get back the response. Okay, so let's say now for the sake of discussion, let's say right now your website is not so popular and it has just, let's say, 500 users. So like there are various use cases wherein we can use load balancers. So in this case, let's assume that we have 500 users and this one server is sufficient enough to serve this 500 or these 500 requests. But later on, let's say your website gets a lot of attention and users shoot up from 500 to 5 lakhs, let's say. And again, the users who are accessing your website experiencing a bit of delay in opening up. And since only one server is responsible for handling so many requests, there will be certain requests that will be queued up and certain requests will be served. So we can use load balancer to basically distribute the traffic. So in this case, we can have one more server. Let's call it server 1 and let's name it server 2. And then, okay, let me draw this again. Let's call it server 1. Let's call it server 2. And then in between, we will have a load balancer. Okay, so now when you request for a particular website which is hosted on these servers, this request is made to a load balancer, and then in turn load balancer will distribute the traffic among the servers. So load balancer is responsible for distributing the traffic. And again, let's say if you are serving 5 lakh users, then the requests will be redirected according to different servers. So let's say 2.5 lakh requests will be made to this server. This is just for the sake of discussion. And 2.5 lakhs will be served by this server. So individual load will be decreased on a particular server, and this load balancer will act as, basically it will be acting as a mediator to distribute the traffic. And again, this is one of the scenarios. Again, there are a whole lot of reasons for using load balancer. So let's say your website is hosted on a single server only, and if this server goes down, then no one will be able to access this website. So you will not be able to access any content of this website. But again, if you have hosted your website on multiple servers, even if one server goes down, you will be able to access the content using other server. So like this, there are various use cases. So this is an overview of load balancer, and now we will be having a practical session on this. So as we discussed, now first of all we'll be starting 2 instances. These 2 instances which will be launching up, and after that we'll be creating a load balancer, and then we'll try to basically pass a request and we'll see the response accordingly. So let's start with that. So coming to our AWS management console, let's click EC2 service. Since I am using this frequently, this has popped up in recently visited services. I'm clicking it. Right now we are not having any instances running, so we'll click it, we'll launch instances. So let's say launch instance. So these are the instances which are here. So we will be picking Amazon Linux same AMI for this. Say select. We'll be going with free tier t2.micro. Next, configure details. So herein you can see number of instances. So depending on the number of instances you want to launch for this particular type, you can put up a number accordingly. So right now I just want to launch 2 instances of this configuration. So I'll be clicking 2. I have clicked, or I have entered 2. So say next, add storage. Storage I'm fine with. Next is tagging. So if you want to tag it, you can tag it. So we'll say ELB instances. Next, configure security group. So in this case, we'll be allowing SSH from port 22 from anywhere, and again we'll add one more rule, that is HTTP over port 80 from anywhere will access it. So 2 rules we have configured. One is SSH over port 22 and next is HTTP using port 80. So we'll say review and launch. Herein we'll say launch. We'll select the key pair, launch instance. So our instances are now launching. We'll say view instances. So you can see here we have ELB instances. If you'll select it, we'll be able to see the details. This is the private IP and DNS which is allocated to it. And soon public IP and DNS will be shown up here. So once this is created, we'll be basically installing HTTPD on both the instances. Then we'll be creating some HTML pages so that we can differentiate between them. Okay, so this is the public DNS of our first instance. So let me go ahead and log into it using SSH. Say yes. So in this case, the username is EC2user. Okay. So now we are able to log in successfully, and now we'll be installing HTTPD. So we'll say sudo yum install HTTPD. So it will ask for your confirmation. Say yes. Install is complete. Now we'll start it. So we'll say etc init.d HTTPD start. So we'll have to sudo it. Okay, so it says starting HTTPD. So to confirm, we have copied public DNS already of the server 1. So we'll paste it. There you go. So HTTPD is set up. Apache is set up, you can see, on this first instance. So similarly, we'll be doing it for second instance. I'm copying the public DNS of this. Paste, open, say yes, EC2 user. So let's fire up the commands again. So we'll say sudo yum install HTTPD, say yes. And then we'll say sudo etc init.d HTTPD start. Okay, so now second instance is also started. HTTPD started on second instance as well. So let's check this. Great. So now both of our instances are up and running with HTTPD. So we can see this is our first instance and this is our second instance. And these both instances are in same availability zone, that is US East 1A, North Virginia. Okay, now let's go ahead and change some content. So we'll say, we'll go to cd var www, we'll say HTML. So right now we won't be having anything in this. So we'll create HTML file. We'll say sudo vi index.html. This is our second server, I guess, 248.